Welcome to another Merit Moment. I'm JB Howard. As promised, each of our weekly Merit Moments come with a Howard Homestead update. Over the past week, really we've been focused on getting ready for the fall season, helping friends with baling and stacking hay, collecting fresh eggs from our chicken friends, and really, again, making a hard charge on splitting and stacking firewood. Working towards that 10-cord goal that we have to heat our home every winter. So now onto our topic of the day. This is one of the more frequently discussed topics in my initial and ongoing meetings with clients. Should I convert my IRA to a Roth? What's that going to do for me? How might that hurt or how might that help my retirement savings? So to answer that question, we've got to begin by looking at current levels, of recent current events, and where it appears the tax law is going. That's driving everything. As many of you know, there was a lot of news, big stir on Monday this week because Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a well-known congresswoman, AOC in other words, attended the Met Gala, a black tie event with only 400 elite attendees per year. There's 400 elite attendees per year. She wore a dress plastered with the words, "Tax the rich" in a bright red. So here we've got a congresswoman that took it upon herself to accept a $35,000 ticket to an event and wore a dress making that statement. This is a great example of the current tone of our government. But what you might also not realize or not know is that if you make over $84,000 a year, you're considered by America to be among the top 25% of all wage earners. And you're part of that group that's already paying 86% of all of the income tax collected by the US government or the Treasury. Does being in the top 25% make you a tax target? I'd say more than likely. So sitting here today, public debt is rounding the corner to $29 trillion, $26.5 trillion a year ago, roughly July of 2020. We're currently watching a bipartisan sparring match in Congress as fingers are pointed. Different tax hikes are being proposed almost on a daily basis. Yes, we've got, people on the right proposing to cut funding and people on the left proposing to raise taxes. At best, the final result will be a compromise where both of these things end up happening simultaneously to some extent. It's a current reality that the US added nearly $2 trillion to the national debt over the course of 1 year. Summer 2020 to summer 2021. And that means people are starting to really question whether or not deferring, or more accurately put, postponing their taxes will actually be beneficial in the long term. So why am I talking about taxes in a Roth conversion merit moment? Because in case you missed our discussion of Roth versus traditional IRAs a few weeks ago, here's a quick refresh. With a traditional IRA, you can get tax break this year when you put the money in. You put in pre-tax dollars and you're waiting to pay taxes on that money until you withdraw it sometime in the distant future. With a Roth IRA, you pay taxes on the money this year, but when you take it out, it's tax-free. Many people have invested in traditional IRAs, traditional 401ks, because they were able to get a tax break, a tax savings in the current year, and they end up saving more in their accounts for retirement. And often these investors have believed that they're going to be in a less overall income in retirement. Therefore, they'll be in a lower tax bracket. Sometimes this is true, sometimes it isn't. Oftentimes, when it is true and we're at a much lower tax bracket, it usually means we didn't do a very good job planning for retirement, and we're retiring on some kind of a lifestyle or income stream that's much less than we're used to. So if taxes go up for everybody across the board, this doesn't always work out the way we planned. It's also very likely you'll have less tax deductions than you do now. For instance, your children are to be grown and your mortgage is going to be paid. So you'll actually have a higher tax bill in the future on possibly the same amount of income. Not only should you take some time to consider your tax situation in the future, you need to look into what your required minimum distribution or RMD is going to be for your traditional IRA accounts, your 401ks. Some folks find out when they add up all their retirement income streams, their RMD is going to be more than they actually need in their budget. If that's going to be the case for you, it's important to understand that early on and take steps to address it. If our government's likely to have a greater, not a lesser need for dollars going forward, then it's likely taxes are going to increase. You'd be better off converting over a portion of your traditional IRA into a Roth well before being forced to take an RMD and paying taxes on it when you don't really need that money for income. I'm going to be very clear right now and say that conditions are ideal for Roth conversions if you start it now before 2021 ends. So why do I say that? What does that mean? For conditions to be ideal, there have to be two simple factors at play: low taxes now and the promise of higher taxes coming. Recently, I read an article written by Jamie Letcher from Kiplinger. He reminds us that the tax reform passed by Congress in 2017 reduced marginal tax brackets, but included a sunset clause that would revert brackets to 2017 levels in 2026 in the absence of action by Congress. Folks, if that happens, for instance, folks in the 12% bracket will revert back to the 15% bracket. 22% bracket goes to 25, so on and so forth. Relative to history, we are in a low tax environment today, whether it feels like it or not. The tax brackets we're living under today are probably the lowest we're going to see. There's chatter in Congress about raising taxes, and it doesn't look like we're getting out of 2022 specifically without some action being taken on increases. In fact, the House Ways and Means Committee is set to vote on a proposal this week, by the end of the week, that would increase the RMD for certain individuals, limit Roth contributions under certain circumstances, and increase corporate and capital gains tax rates. All of that's going to be tied to income. I feel like this move is going to be really only the beginning of what we're going to see walking into 2022. If you have the ability to do a conversion, if it works for your personal situation, now truly is the time. But there's some cautions on the other side to keep in mind before you take that step. So what are the concerns with moving forward with a Roth conversion? Most importantly, when you roll your traditional IRA or convert your traditional IRA over into a Roth, it actually counts as income for the current year. If you decide that, yes, the time is right for me to roll or convert this traditional IRA into a Roth, you've really got to look over your personal finances and make sure that this year is appropriate to do that. So here's an example. Let's just say you decide to roll over $20,000 of a traditional IRA into a Roth IRA tomorrow. You convert it. That $20,000 will be added to your adjusted gross income, or your AGI as we know it. It's going to be on your tax return for this year. So this move could put you in a higher tax bracket on those distributions this year. However, you have to remember that can also keep you from an even higher tax bracket later. And you won't even have to take a required minimum distribution on those conversions because RMDs are only for traditional IRAs. We're not going to be forced to take money out later. It's also crucial that you've got enough, simply put, you got to have enough money in your current savings accounts to cover the extra taxes that the $20,000 are going to bring this year. So strongly advise that you don't use IRA money to cover the tax bill for a conversion, because you'd simply be adding more to your tax bill by withdrawing more from your IRA. So in summary, before you take the step to pursue the Roth conversion, we've got to do three things. First, have an idea of what your current income is and what your tax burden looks like for this year. What tax bracket are we in? Secondly, we need to have a projection of what your required minimum distributions, or RMDs, will be like concerning your current IRAs and 401ks, so that you know what your income is going to look like in the future. We've got to do some income planning. This is going to give you an estimate of what taxes you have to pay in the future. And then thirdly, or finally, you need to understand how an increase in the tax bracket could affect the tax you'd be required to pay in the future. Or also, how much in any given year can you convert each year to stay within your current tax bracket? Once you've got these pieces of information figured out, you'll be able to see if moving forward with a Roth conversion would be to your benefit. Now remember, the benefits of a Roth conversion would be that you never have to worry about taxes going up, because you've secured a tax-free savings account, and you'll be free from dealing with RMDs in the future. And we've seen those change, those rules change year over year over the last several years. However, if you don't have the current savings to pay the taxes on the rollover today, it's just probably not the best idea for you. Now, if you need help with any of these projections, calculations, putting these things pen to paper, a spreadsheet, so to speak, we're always here to help you make the best choice for your unique situation. We all have common concerns, but all of our situations are also unique. I'm here for you all. If you get stuck, you get confused, just shoot me an email, give me a call, go on the website, click for a 15-minute, chat or consultation. We're happy to have a conversation. You're just, more than anything, you just don't have to be alone in this planning process. I truly hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and join us next week if you would, when I'll be interviewing Nick Fiorelli. He's a CrossFit gym owner, a nutritionist, and coach. We're going to talk to him about the ways we can physically prepare for our ultimate retirement. So thanks for joining me again. See you next week. Have a beautiful day. Thank you all.